Hi, everyone. We're here for an exciting episode. We have a special guest. I'm very excited to introduce Annabelle Beckwith. Annabelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And I love your accent. Tell us where you're from.
Well, I'm based in the UK. I live in Scotland, but I work internationally. So
excellent. And you and Katie, I love it. You and Katie met. I'll let you tell that story. And I think we're all going to connect in Boston indirectly on September 29th and 30th. So why don't you all tell kind of the story, how you met and what's coming?
It's one of those things, isn't it? To me, it's a testament to the power of networking, because in the spring, I was over with a contingent from the Scottish Business Network for Tartan Week. Was invited to attend an event there. At that event, met a lady called Julie Semple, got chatting with her. She introduced me to Katie. I had a chat with Katie, who then invited me on the podcast. Meanwhile, in the background, I had been doing some work with Edinburgh Chamber of Commerce with a group of entrepreneurs there, and Mayan, who I was working with, mentioned casually that the Chamber was going to be bringing a trade mission to Boston, at which point I thought, I wonder if Julie and Katie know anybody, ... And so it's this kind of tangled web, really, in a good way, isn't it? Where you speak to somebody and you think, there's... and just start to make connections. So I'm absolutely delighted that the Edinburgh crowd are going to get to meet you and learn from you in Boston in a few weeks' time.
That's so good. Katie, I know we're going to hear Annabelle's journey, but what about her stuck out to you that even said, I'm going to recommend her for the podcast? What about her personality or business or any of that?
Yeah, I think what's most interesting, and Annabelle, maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about this, is you work directly with entrepreneurs to help kind of coach them and guide them through the entrepreneurial journey. And I think we all know and can appreciate how difficult that can be at times, right? With entrepreneurship, it's never a straight line. There's a lot of ups and downs and unforeseen challenges. And so maybe you can just tell the audience a little bit about the work you do and how you really support the entrepreneur community too.
Yes, absolutely. So in a nutshell, I've been involved in learning and development, in training and coaching for 25 years, and initially that was very much in a corporate environment, and I've been very blessed to be able to work with companies in every sector you can imagine, companies of all shapes and sizes all over the world. And over that time, patterns started to emerge. I would see something happening in a business in London, for example, and think, oh, that's interesting. And then I might be in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia and see the same behavior pattern and think, oh, that's a surprise. And then in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, and then in Houston, Texas, and then in Munich, Germany. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is happening so consistently everywhere. It can't not be a principle. And so gradually these patterns and behaviors formed themselves in my mind. It wasn't a bolt of lightning. It was like a slowly emerging from the mist kind of thing. 5 core principles that can be used to help entrepreneurs who are growing their businesses. And those are personal, purpose, people, process, and paradigms. And the personal is very much about you as a human being. Before you're even a business owner or entrepreneur or leader, you as a human being, what do you want to do with your life? To think about these things first so that you build a business that supports and sustains that. You don't accidentally build some Frankenstein's monster that ends up consuming you. The purpose is very much about thinking about the higher level things of your business, the purpose, the vision, the mission, the values before the strategy. Then we move on to the people, getting the right people in the right place, doing the right thing, the processes that support your people to deliver your purpose, that gives you your personal goals. And then underpinning all of that is the paradigms and the culture that you're creating. So this framework basically underpins everything that I do in my work with entrepreneurs. And probably having worked with corporates for 25 years, it's probably been about a decade that I've been working with entrepreneurs to help them get from that point of the solopreneur, it's growing, it's kind of been trundling along and evolving, and now suddenly it's slightly out of control. It's starting to grow arms and legs, and it's at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You need to kind of rein it in and make sure that, not rein it in, but manage it and make sure that you have in place the things that you are going to need. Otherwise, what will happen is that you will round the bend in the river unprepared and you will hit the rapids.
Wow.
And then you will be in a spot of bother.
Question about that. I love the metaphor you're saying of the creature, the Frankenstein. That's pretty cool. So those 5 Ps that you named.
Yes.
Have you named that model?
Yes, it's the 5 Ps framework, and it's a registered framework.
I love it. See,
Yeah.
Katie, I knew once she started dropping the 5 Ps, I was like, that's intellectual property. And I'm so glad, Annabelle, that you have named it. We have a friend who calls it Name the Baby.
Yes.
Chad Jenkins calls it Name the Baby. And then it becomes real. So you actually named that, and then you've protected that.
Yes, I have. And do you know, it's one of those things that at the point at which I was thinking, I really ought to do something about this. I think one of the things that was actually putting me off was you imagine that it's going to be some hideously complex and expensive legal process that's going to take years. And actually here in the UK, a friend said, oh no, I've done the same thing. You go to a government website, you fill in some forms, they get back, you pay 400 and some odd pound. And that was it. Now, I know that obviously in different countries, the legal system is going to be different and it may be more protracted, slightly more complex. But I think sometimes I do think that the fear factor of, oh gosh, this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
Keeps people off from protecting their ideas. And that's and that'd be a mistake.
Yeah. Katie, you see that sometimes people think I got something special here, but the hurdle to protect it is bigger in their head.
Oh, well, every day. Yeah. People, especially founders, right? Entrepreneurs, they're so busy too that they just think, oh, like it's intimidating to them. And they think, oh, I'll just do it later. And then, years pass before they finally are ready to address it. So I'm glad, Annabelle, you can speak to how it really is sort of a painless process and not very much too complicated.
That's it. I think also sometimes people will, as I indeed probably would have done had this friend of mine not said, oh, no, you're wrong, is kind of kick it into the long grass and think it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Which it probably isn't until it's not.
Yes.
At which point it's too late and you're trying to play catch up. So I think it's one of those crucial things, like so many legal matters in business. It's easy to just hope for a fair wind and whatever. But it is you need to get these things in place. You just do, because you never know when something might go awry. And you will actually be really glad that you went through the minor inconvenience of getting these legal things buttoned down.
Katie and I hear those stories of people that, might have their founding friend and they're both speaking on the issue, but really, let's say Annabelle created it. And then relationships change. And, if you didn't protect that, then it's like, well, hold on. I actually thought of it, and the memories get very foggy. I've realized the older I get, the more hair I lose, that memories kind of fade and people's version of the past isn't always accurate. And so paper trails, timestamps, this is all very important. So talk to us now. You got the 5 Ps. You help entrepreneurs. I love what you said, how in Malaysia and Houston, you saw themes. I think the world is flat. I think we live in this world today where something can happen in the UK and all of a sudden we hear about it same day, hour later. So talk about that. Even the fact that we live in a digital world might amp up the need to protect things sooner because people can hear about things immediately.
That's it. And it's, do you know, it's one of those things. I think part of me thinks that you're never going to, you know, there's, if it's a good idea, someone's going to nick it, you know, somebody's going to borrow it or adapt it, or and you know, and fair enough, as long as they don't steal the whole darn thing lock, stock and barrel.
Right.
But it is that the speed of communication these days is so fast that it you know, it's just very easy for somebody to just go, I'll just borrow that, and then suddenly what you hear, and I've not with this 5Ps framework, but with an ebook that I had online some years ago. This happened where it was being retailed through Bookboon, is a Danish kind of online book company, and I just thought, oh, let me just see how, you know, tappity tap tap tap, and somebody else had downloaded the whole thing and was selling it on their website with no recourse to me, and so it's probably depressingly easy for people to do that. And whilst you might not be able to protect yourself entirely, because you'd have to, you know, be absolutely on it all the time everywhere, it's still necessary to protect it and say, no, that's mine.
That's right.
You can use it. You can use it. I want people to use the 5Ps. I want entrepreneurs to use these principles.
They give you credit.
But state the source. Otherwise, it's plagiarism and it's theft.
That's right. And Katie, we've chatted about this. It used to be that the USPTO would basically put the day something is protected, because we are so moving at such a high speed. Instant IP, for example, does the second. So how important do you think we are in today's world, where Elon Musk can give a speech in Dubai and there's copycats same day? Like,
right. Yeah, no, I think it's so important, because right now, most of our intellectual property rights in the US relate back to the day of protection, day of filing, right? Patents and copyrights when you register the work. So I think eventually that will shift, because, you know, down to a minute or an hour type analysis, because there is such a huge push of things that get protected, and it, you know, it gets more and more kind of competitive as technology evolves too. Yes. So I foresee that being very important in the future too.
It's like the stock market, Annabelle, here in the US. You know, I'm sure years ago it was fine to be like, oh, I got my trade in, you know, on the day. But correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, I've heard of them even digging up the ocean, creating fiber optics because of milliseconds of speed. You know, like we live in a world today of financial has caught up, but maybe intellectual property still needs to catch up to that speed.
Right. Well, and I think too, because we're in this digital age where things can move so much more quickly than we're ever used to. I kind of think that will change too, because things can change and update and need to be done so much more quickly than we're used to.
Annabelle, even though over the weekend, maybe you saw the story, but there was that story about that CEO who stole a hat from right? But let's talk about that, because that's name, image, likeness, right? That's his property, right? And I've heard that his company, just like the Coldplay incident a few weeks ago, I mean, we live in a world today where you better be doing the right thing, because if somebody whips out their smartphone and records you, your whole stock and company go down.
It's true, isn't it? And it's like on an aircraft, you know, they will regularly, well, the ones in the UK that I've been on recently, they'll make an announcement as part of the safety brief, and they're saying it is not permitted to take film or photographs of everybody without their consent.
Really?
Because otherwise you do see these things online, isn't it, where somebody's kicking off because they didn't get sugar with their coffee, or, you know, or they don't like the person sitting next to them, or whatever. So it is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it is that, well, who are, you know, who owns their face and their.
That's right.
And I know certainly in the film industry, my brother Tony Hitchcock is an artist and props maker for museums and films and all sorts of things. And like he was saying, there was this, obviously enough, this big thing about extras and actors and creating an AI version of them that could arguably be used to, you could have Marilyn Monroe starring in a new film, and it's. So I think there's all sorts of, within the digital arena, there's all sorts of different things coming into play, isn't it? With IP and who owns who owns that, who owns the copy, whose is it?
I've heard Denmark, I scroll on Instagram and they know I like intellectual property, so they're always throwing me stories. But I heard something like Denmark is one of the first countries that basically says that a person actually owns their identity and their voice. Stuff like that. So let's talk about that, because I've never heard that on an airplane yet. I'm sure it's coming to the US, but how is the place, Annabelle, that you live? What, I've heard Americans tend to be, I don't know, the Wild West, the cowboys, a little bit rude, when it comes to entrepreneurship. Do you see differences in your part of the world in terms of entrepreneurship?
Yes and no. And I think it's there's always going to be cultural differences in the way in which people communicate and so on. It's also one of those things, having done quite a bit of work in the States and traveled around in the States, there's one of the mistakes that I think Europeans, British people will make is thinking about what's American culture. There isn't an American culture, a homogenized thing, because the way in which it works in Texas is going to be very different to how it works in Los Angeles, which is going to be different to New Jersey, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it is a question of recognizing those factors, and the way in which people communicate, the way in which entrepreneurs communicate, the way in which business owners, the business world works. So there will be cultural differences. In the same way, if you go to the Middle East, it's different again, and yet there are principles, because there are these things, and it's like, it doesn't matter where it is, it doesn't matter what the sort of business the business is. There are certain things that happen. This is what happens when human beings come together as a group of people to accomplish something, whether that's a startup business, whether that's a community group, whether that's a whatever. And so those patterns of human behavior will tend to materialize almost wherever you are. So that's a bit of a long answer to your short question. Yes and no. That's kind of what lawyers say. Like yes and no. It depends. It's kind of the same thing.
No, I like that a lot. So Katie, I know we got about 5 or so minutes left, but what do you know about Annabelle's business before I ask her to explain, what do you know a little bit about her business?
Yeah, no, I think she really likes to work alongside entrepreneurs and founders and really kind of help drive their decision making. Because Annabelle, maybe you can share with us kind of what do you think are some of the greatest challenges entrepreneurs face that you work with, and kind of how do you help them, reframe their thinking around those challenges?
It's an interesting question, because I think the challenges that entrepreneurs face, the challenges that we all face, and a few come to mind. One is oftentimes entrepreneurs, we all want things to happen quickly. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to. It kind of just does. So don't beat yourself up for that. I think a lot of time, and like everybody everywhere, entrepreneurs can be looking for a silver bullet solution to a particular challenge or issue. And usually there isn't one. If there was, they'd have figured it out by now. So, taking, for example, something like hiring, entrepreneurs who are scaling up will say, well, how do we find this holy grail where we can actually hire somebody who's good at the job, as opposed to somebody who talks a good game in the interview, arrives in role and is hopeless. And there is no silver bullet to that. There's a process, there's a sequence of things that need to happen in terms of, this is what you need to think about, this is what you need to do. And once you've got those P's in a row, my 5 P.
Mm.
You've got those things in a row, then you can be far more certain that you're going to hire the right people, because you've done not one thing, lots of little things. So the silver bullet thing, I think, is a challenge, and
That's good.
Being overly concerned about the pace of things. Another thing is, and again, this is true of absolutely everybody in any context, is a tendency to get caught up in the narrative in your head. And so it can be, oftentimes it's overthinking and overcomplicating things, and having a tendency to believe that nobody understands this, nobody gets this, nobody can help me. And that's not true. That is not true. And sometimes it gets to a point where, in fact, I was delivering a session with a group of entrepreneurs, I think it was last year, and it's borderline funny, but then it's not, because the thing that we were considering was, how do you take values, something as esoteric and untangible as values, and make sure it actually becomes the culture of your business? Something happens. It's not just posters or a slogan on the wall. And so I was saying, right, we're going to do this morning, and I've got some processes to take you through. And there was a bit of a buzz in the room with one or two people saying, but we've done this and we've considered our values and nothing's happened. It's like, yeah, because there's certain things you need to do, and we're going to go through. But how do you do this? And it took 2 or 3 of these kind of like, but how do you, for me to go, I am literally about to tell you. It's on the next.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
like, sometimes
funny.
it's a question of
Yeah.
just pause. And so one of the things, probably as a theme, the biggest single thing that I do when I'm working with entrepreneurs and leaders and executives in larger organizations is to help them overcome overthinking and simplify it. Simplify, break it down into bits.
Yeah.
And then build it up again. It's a cliche, but it's true. It's like the journey of the 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You eat the elephant a mouthful at a time, whatever it is, but breaking it down into bits so they can go, oh, I see. I see. Now that it's broken up, I can see my way through. When it was this huge challenge, I was in the brick wall and I couldn't see it.
Totally. Now I know what you like her, Katie. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, I like people who like entrepreneurs. So this is really good. Well, Annabelle, I know, am I going to see you in Boston? Are you coming personally?
Unfortunately not. At that time, I'm going to be in Dubai delivering a women in leadership program there.
Cool.
So, so I won't be joining you this time.
But tell us where, if people are really interested in you, do you have any books? Can people follow you on your website? What do you got?
Yes. So I happen to have a copy here.
Oh,
I know. I've done this so often, and I thought, oh no,
get your P's in a row. 5
key factors to propel your business forward. So that was written specifically for entrepreneurs who are scaling up. The follow-on to that is what I co-authored with my daughter earlier this year, Stepping Up to Lead, a practical guide for your first people management role. And so what the clue's in the title. Whilst that was written for people who are new to people leadership, the feedback we're getting is actually from some entrepreneurs and business owners going, actually, nobody told me how to set goals. So it's useful in that context as well. And certainly as you grow your business, anybody who is in a leadership role in your business, whether that's a project manager or a first line leader or a team supervisor, they kind of need to know how to do these things. Those are both on Amazon. My personal website is at annabellebeckwith.com. Oh, thank you. My personal website is annabellebeckwith.com, and my business website is at yara-journeys.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. Quite a lot. So if you would like to connect with me there, then that's usually an easy one to remember.
What a good cover. Do you like that, Katie?
Yeah, I love that. I like how you have your 5 P's there too.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Well, that's actually the manager, the photograph there. I was sending him pictures of me. I didn't have any frozen peas. I had some blueberries. I was going, it needs to look like this. And the first image, he had a very cautious flick like this. And I was going, no, it needs to be, you need to be ready to really clear it off into the distance. So
oh my God, I love that. I'm going to pop up your quick website here as well. I think I have it. So this was amazing. You have your about book, speaking.
Yes.
This is fantastic. Well, listen, Annabelle, this was great. And how cool to co-write with your daughter.
It was an absolute joy, and
Good.
parenting win right there. And she, I tell you where it came from, is that she had been just promoted to her first people management role and was getting some mentorship and coaching, but there were lots of the practical day-to-day things like, how do I set goals? How do I delegate and make sure somebody delivers what I needed rather than something that's like, what the heck is this? And I've got to redo it myself. So I was talking her through these things off the back of 25 years of delivering training on these. And then she said, oh, if only there was a book that told you how to do this in really simple, straightforward terms. At which point we thought,
we need to write it.
And so we did. So it's very much driven by her. And literally when we were writing it, she was saying what was coming up for her. And I was going, right, well, that's going to be in the next chapter, or we need to put that into something that we've just written.
So good. Well, congratulations, Katie. Thank you for the introduction to Annabelle. And we'll make sure we put all your links in the show notes. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's been a genuine joy speaking with you. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the podcast.
Thanks for coming on and being